Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. The recitation today continues from Jait Sari Mahalla Panjwa Var Saloka Nal. This is the 16th pauri in this configuration. 2 saloks and a pauri. The first salok. Salok Patit Puneet Gobindah Sarb Dokh Nivarne Saran Sur Bhagavan hai Jab Pant Nanak Har Har Hare. So the first line, Patit Puneet Gobindah. Gobindah, the world sustainer. Gobind, sustainer of the world. One of many attributes, qualities used for the self. So Gobindah, Patit Puneet Gobindah, it means Gobind is. What is Gobind in this particular context? It is Patit Puneet. It is that which purifies the fallen. Patit Puneet Gobindah. And so what happens? What is the consequence of that? Sarab Dokh Nivarna. Again, a quality of Gobind, that it is the purifier of the fallen. We'll talk about that. And as a consequence, all of one's sorrows are removed. Sarab Dokh Nivarna. And then in the second line, the Guru is saying, Saran Sur Bhagavan. Saran Sur Bhagavan. Saran, shelter. Sur, a hero, a warrior, heroic. Bhagavan. Bhagavan is a term again used for Gobind here, but in a particular context. So the Guru is saying that I have sought sanctuary with Gobinda, who is Bhagavan. And how has that happened? And what has happened as a result? Japant Nanak Har Har Hare. Japant from Jap. Jap. Again, we often think of it only in its very narrow usage as utterance, but actually it means much more than that. If you look at utterance, take that for a moment. Underlying utterance is a sense of vibration, of resonance. So what the Guru is really saying here is that I have anchored myself in the shelter of this heroic divine presence, because it is the Bhagavan, it is the one that is the giver of qualities. We'll talk about Bhagavan. And Japant Nanak, Nanak now resonates with Har Har Hare, with that Har, which is present in everyone as that greening consciousness, creative consciousness. So you look at Gobind as being the universal sustainer. It is that universal frequency, if you will. It neutralizes Sarab Dokh. Think of Sarab Dokh as being your inner agitation, your inner dissonance and destructive error. Because it is not moral sin. We talk about Patit Puneet. It is habitually translated as a sinner. or fallen. And what happens then is that it becomes overtly moralizing. That's not the point here. Gurbani is not treating us with any judgment. It is simply saying that you are misaligned and therefore you feel an inner agitation and error is the result. That is what causes the heat, and that is what we call sorrow. And Puneet is not moral rehabilitation, but restoration. It is the return to one's natural clarity. So Gurmat's understanding of the human condition is not that we are fundamentally broken, but that we are temporarily obscured. The light was never absent, only the seeing was interrupted. In the second salok, the Guru says, he amplifies on the first salok. He says, Chhadyo hab aap lagado charana paas, nathado dukh taap nanak prabh pe khandaya. Chhadyo hab, I have dropped the ego center. This is where the perceived split happens. Chhadyo hub, I've dropped everything that is in that ego center. Lagado charana paas, again a repetition. I've anchored myself into that ground of being. Charana paas, charan is also an expression for gur wisdom. And then nathado dukh taap, the fever of duality and friction of pain has fled. The moment I became a witness. Nanak prabh pe kandhaya. So that movement, pe kandhaya, pain and fever fleeing, not by achieving anything, not in the striving, not even in the dropping of the ego as a deliberate act of will, beholding itself is enough. The moment true seeing occurs, the dissonance resolves. Not because something was done, but because it was seen clearly. So clarity, not effort, is the cure. And now on to the pauri. Mel leho dayal dhai pahe duarya, rakh le woh deen dayal, parmat bao harya, bhagat vachal tera bird, har patit udharya, तुझ बिन नाही कोय बिनो मोह सारया कर गह लेहो दयाल sagar sansarya. It's a very interesting construct. It moves between petition and testimony. It's not completely a petition, it's not completely a testimony. It is a combination of both. So it has a very interesting structure. Mel leho dayal deh paya duare. So having given up my center, the Guru is saying that the compassionate one initiated the fusion. He initiated the fusion. And I self-surrendered. I collapsed at your gateway, deh paya duare. When that self-surrender happens, preservation occurs. And what has happened so far is nothing but weariness, exhaustion from aimless wandering. Paramat bhaharya. This is coming to the shelter of good wisdom. And then the term that is used is bird. It is your inherent nature to love. You are love. And you, this heroic presence, you lift the fallen. There is no other, tujh bin nahi koi. Binoho mo sarya, I've offered my petition. And then what happened? When I petitioned the compassionate one, the Dayal reached out, took me by the hand, kar geh le, and helped me across the ocean of this world, sagar sansarya. So you see, the word bird in the pauri is important. Inherent nature. It is the irreducible way something simply is. So in Gurmat, when it says this is your bird, what it is saying is that the divine cannot help but do. It is its inherent nature. It is not a policy that the divine chooses to apply here and not in another place. It is what the Har simply does. So the dissolution of Sarab Dukh, these are errors. This is noise that we have created. And all we have to do is control the agitation so that it becomes creative tension. The functional filter is what has become conditioned. You can't see through it clearly. Now, when we talk about Bhagavan, it is a term that is used in the Indian tradition, and it comes from the root bhaj, which means to share, to apportion. And from this root, the noun bhaga, which translates to opulence, potency, glory, and the suffix, it comes from bhagavat. So vat has become van in Hindi and Punjabi. So what it means is it literally translates to the possessor of opulence, meaning in Gurmat, this is the possessor of all qualities. In the Indian tradition, there are 6 such attributes, namely Aishvarya, sovereignty, that is, Virya, potency, Yasha, radiance, Sri, grace, Jnana, omniscience, and Vairagya. So, this is the attribute of this heroic self. It gives without being affected. It remains, it is the possessor of all these qualities. It is used as a term for Gobind, for Gopal, for Har. Bhagwan evokes the divine as sovereign and generous, the one who both possesses all capacities and shares them freely. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.